Hello and welcome to episode number 3 of HospiTellTheTEA, where we put a face to the hospitality industry. I wanted to start this HospiTellTheTEA episode by saying you probably should get your pens and pencils because there's a lot of information out here, right? And with COVID going on, there's a lot of information that I want to share with you because a lot of times there are things we don't think about now that COVID is here. One of the main things that we don't really put a lot of thought in, and a lot of people kind of just say, oh, I don't need it, is travel insurance. Okay. Travel insurance during COVID is really, really important. Most travel insurance standard kind of covers cancellations, delays. If you're somewhere and you have an auto accident, you need to be hospitalized, that type of thing. It can cover theft of your travel documents. It can cover hijacking. What? Yeah, nobody wants to be part of something that's been hijacked, but your travel insurance could cover hijacking, in case you didn't know. It can cover sickness, injury, or death, but many standard contracts, that doesn't include COVID. What if you're quarantined? What if you are on vacation and you have to have a negative COVID test result before you can come back to the United States? What if you are on travel and you contract COVID? Like, there's a lot that has to go into that and a lot that people don't think about. So there are some different tips that I wanted to share with you. One, before you go on travel, because a lot of people are acting like, well, I'm vaccinated, I'm out here living my best life, and that's fabulous, that's wonderful, but there are still variants coming out. There's the Delta variant, and I think I heard of another one called the Mu variant. I don't know, Mu or MOO. Cal, I don't know, but there are different variants. So one of the things is, number one, know the COVID travel restrictions in your area and the destination, because those restrictions could stipulate that you have not only a negative test result, or if you are unvaccinated, that you have a negative result before you go and before you return. They may require in some areas still, or really impose the restrictions again, that when you come to their area, you have to have another test result that's negative. Like right now, Hawaii's like, please just don't come because our hospitals are full, and they are the United States, right? So they're like, don't show up. Number two, buy your travel insurance at least 14 days in advance. Okay, now that sounds crazy, but if you buy the travel insurance right before you leave, and sometimes I get it, last minute travel, that last minute weekend jaunt you want to take, right? But buy your travel insurance at least 14 days in advance. Advisors say that shows that it's kind of like buying car insurance and you have an accident supposedly the same night you bought the insurance. They're kind of like, wait a minute, did you already have that accident and then get the insurance? So just, preempt. And the third is print out or save to your phone copies of your insurance card, your insurance contact info, and your policy details. I have traveled globally, right? Portugal, Morocco, France, London, and I always print a color copy of my travel documents and carry it with me, but I also email a copy of them to myself so that if anything happens, I can still go online and get my passport, see my passport, at least have that documentation in some form. So that's just a good rule of thumb, regardless of what you do. So just wanted to give you some tips on that and let you know that that's something that HospiTellTheTEA thinks about and wanted to share with you. So what we want to do today is something amazing. A great, great soul and a great friend has agreed to be the guest on this episode of HospiTellTheTEA. He is an amazing chef, a fantastically gregarious person. And you know what? I have something I just want to share with you just in case you didn't know. Check this out. That is Chef Peter Maffei. So let me show you a little bit more about him. is the amazing Chef Peter Maffei. And I just want to start by sharing a little bit about this amazing soul. He is an incredible person. He brings over 20 years of culinary experience to the Austin hotel scene. He was born and raised in New York City and was early on fascinated by the city's world-class chefs and restaurants. Chef Maffei is a graduate of the prestigious Culinary Institute of America and honed his craft in some of the best Michelin-starred restaurants in New York. Upon arriving in Austin, Texas, Chef Peter has worked at the Hilton Hotel of the Year, Hilton Austin. There, he spearheaded their banquet department, which hosted groups of up to 2,500 guests. Most recently, he was the executive chef who oversaw the restaurants on property, from the award-winning Finn and Porter to their full restaurant renovations from concept to implementation. In 2017, Peter brought his talents to Harrell Hospitality Group, opening the Courtyard Austin Pflugerville. There, the hotel achieved the Platinum Circle Award in their first full year of operation. He has been instrumental in several of the company's other properties in California and the Dallas area, as well as his home in Pflugerville. Peter won the AHLA Carl McKee Award for Hospitality Manager of the Year for the City of Austin. He is also the membership chair for the Austin chapter of the TCA. At the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, Chef Peter has shifted his culinary talents to the world of virtual learning. With years of experience teaching cooking classes at Austin's Central Market, he has found a way to bring that passion and experience directly into people's homes. During these unprecedented times, his enthusiasm for his craft has been shared with thousands of students from coast to coast. Chef Peter brings an unbridled passion for cooking and food. His talent to present the simplicity of the food, capturing the diner by developing vibrant flavors and focusing on great local ingredients. Ingredients are the key to his creativity. He has been heavily influenced by his countless trips to New York's famous Union Square Farmers Market and the great Texas produce he has had the pleasure of using since moving to Austin. Chef Peter cooks with a tremendous amount of passion and spreads it through the dining room with the beautifully crafted dishes. Ladies and gentlemen, I am happy to bring to you Chef Peter Maffei.
Thank you for that, man.
Yes.
You made me sound so much better than I really am. Come on.
That's what we do on HospiTellTheTEA.
How you doing? That's it. That could be the end of it. I could just listen to that on loop all day. That's good.
Right. There it is. It's all like, you, Chef.
Nothing like feeding the chef's ego like that, right?
I know. Start, How ironic, feeding the chef, right?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
So I am so glad you're here. I thank you for taking the time out. I think, if I'm not mistaken, you're on travel right now, correct?
Well, I technically am. So I am. So I came back yesterday. I'm home today.
Okay.
And then I will be at my home hotel tomorrow morning. And then Tuesday, I traveled back to where I was. We're opening. So one of the hotels in our company, we're rebranding it into a Delta hotel by Marriott, and it's gone over this full-on renovation. And because of COVID and it had been closed, it's sort of this, instead of the 12 months you usually have to kind of open up a hotel.
Yep.
It's like a 2-month sprint. So I've been back and forth quite a bit. So, and we'll be opening up in about a week. So.
Oh my goodness, that is a tremendous travel schedule. First, and then a whole new brand that you're opening. That is amazing.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So Delta, it's a very European brand. There's a lot of them in Canada. It's a fantastic. And on the food and beverage side, they asked you for a concept. They look for a menu and they say, go for it. So it's as a culinarian, it's a lot of fun to be in that one. Because we've been, some of the different brands I've been, some of them have been very rigid, very loose, very, so this one is very much lets the department, the food and beverage department, decide for themselves. So it's been a lot of fun.
Wow, it sounds very creative. What have you come up with that menu?
Well, it's not so. It's full disclosure. It's not just me. There is a
Yeah,
full team there. There's
of
the
course.
executive chef of that hotel, and we've just recently hired a fantastic sous chef and some really great cooks. What we did was, we came up with some really great items, just seasonal items. Well, there's, the basics, the salmon, the steaks. But
Yeah.
what we've done is, I mean, anybody's ever traveled. This is in Santa Clara. This hotel. It's in Northern California. Anybody's ever traveled to California. I mean, whenever you drive up the 101, you just pass by beautiful produce fields and lettuce
Oh,
fields and strawberry fields. So really what we've done is just taken some great ingredients, some great seafood, some great Pacific Coast seafood, some really
right.
great and a lot of Asian influence. There's a lot of Asian travelers in that area. So we've taken a lot of those fresh, Asian fusion ingredients and just
Oh,
put them on a
wow.
plate and presented them. And of course, obviously any hotel, you have to have a really good breakfast. You have to have the good stuff. So
Important meal of the day.
exactly, yeah. So and the focus that I've been really pushing with the new staff has been, sweat the details. When you go to a hotel, somebody's just going to want probably, two sunny side up eggs, toast, and bacon.
Yeah,
Well, you know what? Just make it the best darn, sunny side up eggs and
yeah.
toast and bacon you can have. So I'm really stressing um, the details and making sure the simplicity doesn't mean low quality. It means
Oh, I love
everything's got
that.
to be done. So that's been a challenge, and it's been a lot of fun.
That is exciting though, because I love the care that you're already instilling in the staff.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times we think, it doesn't need care unless it's something that's above and beyond, or something that I have to get really super creative and make fancy, right?
Yeah,
We
and
don't
I
think about the beauty in the simplicity.
absolutely, and it's funny you said that because currently where I am now, my home hotel is a courtyard. It's a courtyard in Pflugerville, Texas, right?
Yeah.
So that's sort of people. I remember when I left my old job when I was with Hilton in the restaurants, and they knew me as the fine dining sort of the
The
arrogant,
king of fine dining.
the
Yeah,
arrogant
he was
guy
the
with the
guy.
with the squeezes and
Enchanté.
microgreens. Yeah,
We
exactly.
all knew you that way.
But and I remember I had somebody actually somebody texted me, a very dear friend, "What are you doing? Like, why are you going?" I mean, the reasons why I left weren't just,
Sure,
were tenfold, really. But
sure.
one of the things I instill here is we do a lot of banquets. We do this is a banquet property. Our restaurant is what it is. It's I don't want to say it's cookie cutter, but because actually our hotel specifically, Marriott uses as a pilot program for a lot of elevated programs in a
Okay.
courtyard setting. However, our banquet area, when you do a Tex-Mex buffet, right? Chicken
Right.
fajitas, rice. So, when you look at that, somebody from the outside, Peter, 10 years ago would have been like, "Oh, what is that
Ah,
crap?"
what's that? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But now I look at it and say, you know what? Somebody's coming in here and spending money on their company dinner or their company meeting or their, company's lunch or
That's
their kids'
right.
quinceanera. Well, make it the best damn fajitas you've ever had, and make
Right.
it the best rice. And I've been able to, and that's sort of like that, not like it's the second half of my career where I, I've I've been able to find a work-life balance, but I haven't changed my passion. I've just shifted it to something else. So, not I don't live and die with every little piece of the plate being on the right spot, and it has to be at 10 o'clock exactly with
Right.
this
Right.
freezer and with that. But
Scoot it
I've
over.
taken that passion and put it into a quinceanera buffet, and I've taken it into a continental buffet, and
Mm.
that's sort of I'm able to create this next generation of culinarians and really take some people who came in and just they want to have the same quality of life and enjoy what they do just like I do, but they want to have that passion, but they don't want that pressure sometimes of that high stress environment. And
Right.
I really think that we've especially in this job now, I've been able to find that groove in this hotel and in several of the other hotels that I oversee. We've been able to do that, and it satisfies that hunger, and it
Wow.
also satisfies that hunger outside of the walls of work as well.
I love that, because that is the core of what hospitality means. You
Absolutely.
know, I tell people all the time this quote that Maya Angelou stated. She said, people can forget what you did, but they will remember how you made them feel.
Yeah.
And I'm paraphrasing it, but that it's the little details that make people remember that, especially like you said, a quinceañera, right?
Yeah.
A very memorable time in a person's life. And taking that attention to detail really makes a difference. That is exactly why I absolutely love that you're here. Let me back up a little bit.
Yeah.
I know all the great stuff that you're doing now. I mean, you're jet setting all over, living your best life, teaching people, leading tribes of amazing staff. Let's go back and let's see what started it all. What inspired that little person on the screen?
Oh my goodness.
What inspired that little guy from a young age? That's little Chef Peter.
Oh my God. That's wow. Boy, that guy, he is. You know what? I remember that. I remember that picture.
You
I remember
do?
that. Oh yeah. That's my mom behind me, and
Yeah.
I think you've cropped it out. My brother and
Yeah.
my father are standing. I want to say that was at my Uncle Dennis's house, and it was for some
Wow.
family event. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, we had
Look
some
at
great
that.
family gatherings. Oh
So
yeah,
what inspired that little
you know,
guy?
it's you hear that cliche of, oh, I used to watch my grandmother cook in the kitchen, and
Mhm.
I did it out of I guess my mom's gonna kill me for saying this out of I remember not caring for my family's food very much. My
Oh
my
Lord.
my yeah,
A family
my
reunion is gonna be exciting after
I
this.
know,
You know
I
that, right?
know. And I remember it. I said, "Oh, I would do," and I can remember thinking, "Oh, I would do that differently. Oh, I would do that differently."
Mm.
And I can remember saying, "Well, why can't I just do it?" And I would wake up early on weekends, and I remember very specifically. I remember making eggs. I remember making scrambled eggs
Uh-huh.
because I was that guy who watched those cooking shows on PBS, and
Yeah.
it was Galloping Gourmet, and I think it was Jacques Pepin, it was Julia
Chocolate.
Child, and there was another one that I can't remember now. And I was young, and I remember them whisking eggs with a fork, and I remember watching my mom do it
Oh,
with a whisk, and I
yeah.
couldn't figure out. And they said, and I remember Jacques Pepin said one day on this show, and I was 9, and I remember it clearly. I go, well, my mom does it with a whisk. She must be doing it wrong. So I went in the kitchen and I made a mess. And I cooked these eggs and I tried to fold over the omelet, or I
Yeah.
tried to make an omelet. I folded over. It was terrible, but I was determined to eat it.
Okay.
It was disgusting. It was terrible, but I was determined to eat it. And
I made it, I mean it.
yeah, and I sort of just found myself enjoying. I had never thought about doing this for a career. I just like to cook. I like the action of cooking. And I sort of just never thought about it. Years later, I remember when my mom was, both my parents were teachers. My father was a principal of a high school for years. My mom was a New York City history teacher for years. But I remember she had stayed home with us until about 5th grade. I remember she went back to work and she was very busy, and we would eat out more often than we did.
Mhm.
And I remember and Mama Teresa's was our pizza place.
Mm.
It was our local pizza
And
place.
this was in New York, right?
It was in New York, our local pizza place. It's still up and running today. Whenever I go home, I'm going to give them a shout out. Mama Teresa's, you got to go back
What
and
borough? What borough? Tell us.
oh, so it's on Long Island. It's not it's on Long Island.
Oh, it's on Long Island.
It's
Okay,
right on
Mama Teresa's. Woo!
it's right on the Queens border. It's in Garden City Park. It's right on the Garden City the Queens Long Island border. So we would go there, and I remember they had these swinging doors in the back. And I remember the doors would open, you could see the kitchen, and I'd see
Oh,
these guys yelling and screaming, and the guy flipping the pizza in the front, and I was like, man, that just looks like fun. And I remember saying, man, that would be fun. But my father and my mom were like, oh, you don't want to do that. You don't want to work in a kitchen. You know, it's you got to work on holidays. And I remember that was like sort of a big thing. And because I remember my dad loved being off for Christmas because he was a teacher. He loved it. He loved being off for Christmas. So, fast forward, I remember when I was in high school and I was getting ready to go to college. I played baseball, and I was going to go play baseball for Molloy College, and I hadn't gotten a scholarship yet, but I had ended up getting one in the next year. My father asked me, well, what do you want to do? So I just said, I guess I'll just be a teacher, right? They were teachers. You guys get summers off.
Yeah. It's a noble trade. I mean,
it's amazing. I was in it for all the wrong reasons. I was in it for all the wrong reasons. Well,
summer's off,
yeah, summer's off. Monday through Friday, and I could do that. And I went
done by 3 or 4. It's great.
Exactly. Oh yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
And I went to college. The college I went to was known for their teaching program. I was actually dating a girl at the time who was going to be a teacher. And I remember I got to my very first teaching class. And I said, man, I hate this. This is terrible. I can't do this. This is awful. And I got a job. Let me backtrack a little bit. I had gotten a job at a local pizzeria washing pizza pans early on just to make cash. And I did it at the pizza place simply because I thought it was exciting and it was a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
So I went and I did that. But I still never thought about it. Of course, it was cool. I smelled like garlic and I had pizza sauce on me, and I smelled like this dirty deep fryer, and my shoes, had food in the bottom of it. And I thought it was cool. It was more of just a bragging, something to brag about with your friends. Like, I like a pizzeria.
Right.
But I remember my father, who was also, the principal at high school, he said he brought home some brochures from the guidance counselor at the high school he was a principal at. And it had the French Culinary Institute, and it had Peter Kamp's cooking school in New York, all of these in New York. And he brought one for the Culinary Institute of America. Right. And I looked, and he said, well, this one, that's like the Harvard. That's the one you want to go to. So I kind of threw the other brochures away, and I took a look, and I said, I want to go to the CIA. I told my parents, I said, I want to go to culinary school. That's it. That's the end of it. I got a job at Outback Steakhouse. That was my first real job. Like, that was a kitchen job. Like, Outback Steakhouse. I remember.
Okay.
And that was my first real job. Like, that was the first one that, didn't pay me in cash from the register, and it was like a real corporation and a real paycheck that I got. And I did that, and I went the first day, and I had these two guys, these two young Hispanic guys, show me the ropes, and they're like, "Who is this kid?" Like, I came in with a baseball T-shirt on. I had like my baseball uniform hat on, and I had like, crisp jeans on. I wanted to look professional on my first day, and these guys come in, and he was like, "All right, let's cut." I remember that job from head to tail. I can do that whole job today.
Wow.
And I loved it. I remember I was making, if you've ever been to Outback, those really great croutons they have in their salad. They make those from scratch. And I remember I cut them all with an electric knife, and I tossed this herb butter. And I got this herb butter like right here on my neck, and I didn't know it. And I get home, or I'm driving home, and I see it on my neck, and I can smell it. And I was like, that's it. This is what I'm going to do. This is awesome. Wow. I got butter on me. I got butter. Like, this is awesome.
This is serious.
And I actually started skipping classes in college to go to work, or or picking up shifts. I could do that. I'll do that.
Wow.
And I was determined. To go to culinary school. I got every kind of loan I could, because I had already paid for college, right? I had already, that was it. Like, that was it. That was your shot. Like, if you were in a culinary school, you spent that money, it's gone. So I got loans. I remember my grandmother loaned me money. My parents loaned me money. I got loans from everywhere, and I went to culinary school, and that sort of kind of began that next the real serious chapter for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow, it sounds like your family was amazingly supportive from the beginning.
Yeah, they were. So, you hear a lot of people. Yes, I'm the black sheep of the family. My brother works for a law firm. He's very successful. My father was one of the most well respected, school administrators, in Long Island. My mom was one of the most respected history teachers in all of New York City.
Wow.
And my whole family, nobody did anything that wasn't a teacher or a lawyer or something like that. And I
Very straight
just,
laced.
yeah. I was, everybody sort of looked at me like, well, okay, well, what are you going to do on Thanksgiving when you got to go to work? But my parents, after they kind of got over that, like, are you sure you really want to do this? You know what's involved there? Like, well, go for it. Go
Right.
all in. And I mean,
Right.
they've been my biggest cheerleaders since. They've been they're every time I talk to them, and even then when I've had hurdles in my career and major setbacks, they've been the ones just keep fighting, and
Wow.
it's so, yeah, very supportive. They just want to
That
see you
is
happy.
amazing.
Yeah.
I love it because it sounds like, you really come from a great family, and all of you, no matter what your chosen industry, are very accomplished. No question about it. So tell me, okay, for people that don't understand how big it is to have trained in Michelin-star restaurants, can you explain to people
Sure.
what that means? And
Absolutely.
what's some of the restaurants in New York? Because I looked at pictures of your steak. I like the pretty stuff on the plate. Don't get me wrong. But Texans, that's right.
Yeah, you
And
know it.
New
That's it.
Yorkers, you gotta have a steak. So
Yeah.
tell me about Michelin restaurants.
Well, let me start with how I got there. So,
Yeah.
when I had gone through culinary school, and I needed it. When I was in culinary school, you do an externship, which basically means it's a paid internship. You do that,
Okay.
and the
Paid
way
is good.
CIA works is you do half your schooling, then
Okay.
then you leave for 6 months, and you go do your externship, and then you come back. So instead of a lot of culinary schools, they'll teach you, and then you do this externship, which you don't have the support of the school anymore. So CIA, you get to
Oh.
you learn a whole bunch, then you go work, and you actually do your craft, and then you come back, and they can, then you can fine tune. You also know where your deficiencies are. I mean, I remember there were a lot of people who didn't come back from externship. There were people who said, you know what, I don't want to go to school anymore. I just want to make quick money, and they got an externship. They just left.
But
And
you went back, correct?
I went back. Absolutely. The education piece is very important to me. I really wanted to make sure anything I've ever wanted to do, I wanted to make sure I learned.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I go on an externship, and I had 2 externships lined up. Well, one of them was with the White House. I had done through all the applications. I had actually started a background check through Secret Service, and this was with the George W. Bush administration.
Sure.
And they had nixed the program, whether it was budget cuts, security concerns. This was in 2003, so this was very soon after 9/11.
Sure.
And so they had nixed the program, and that was sort of a pie in the sky idea. And then I had another one. It was the Garden City Hotel. Actually, it's very close to where my parents lived, and it was sort of easy. I could stay at home. I didn't have to find an apartment, and I did all the work. I talked to the chef, and then he just basically said, "Yeah, we can't hire you. I'm sorry." Like I mean, this was 2-3 weeks before externship. So there was this career fair at the CIA, and I was walking around, and I saw Del Frisco's. Now, Del Frisco's is one of the best steakhouses in the world.
In the world.
In the world, and it's in New York. It's right in the middle of Rockefeller Plaza, and I remember I met
Not a vegetarian's paradise, but definitely mine.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, and I remember Mark Manansky, who was president of the company at the time, and Chef Thomas Dristis, who was their corporate chef at the time. And I just sort of, that sounds good. It was almost out of, yeah, sure, I'll take whatever. You want to hire me? Great. I need an externship. Sure. So, and it was close to my house. It was right in Manhattan. I could take the train in every day. It would be easy for me. And they set me up with an interview with the general manager, the executive chef, and the sous chef. And I met them, and they said, yeah, sure, this is great. So they said, hey, this is also a place where, after your externship, after you finish culinary school, you can come work here. That sounded even better. That sounded great. So I did my externship, and I will say this, is that place it still is, well, actually, it's the most important place I've ever worked for two reasons. I learned so much about the business. Now, I don't want to say I didn't learn anything about cooking, because I learned a lot how to cook, because the volume. But when it comes to the fine dining aspect, that's a turn and burn. I learned that place, we did 1,200 dinners a night. That place was a beast. That was a place where you learned how to not get rattled, not cry in the corner when the tickets just kept coming and coming and coming. And on top of that, when I went back after my externship, I met my wife there. So
hello.
Yeah, very important, very important.
Yes.
But I worked there I did my whole externship there, and I would be remiss if I didn't. Chef Elvis Innes, who was the sous chef.
Yeah.
He is one of the most important figures in my life. This was a guy who he took me under his wing, and he taught me everything he knew. And this guy, him and the executive chef, Chef Clarence Vandemar, these guys ran that place like a machine. It was just a machine. They would pump out steak after steak after steak after steak, and every single one of them would just be perfect all the time. And they really let me work, and they really taught me a lot. I went back to school, culinary school. I graduated, and they hired me back. I went back and I said, I want to work, and they let me come back. They let me sort of do a supervisory sort of thing. It was more of just, let's give this kid let's give this kid like a, cut him some slack and just give him a little extra responsibility. Basically, I found out now they were just actually having me do their paperwork that they didn't want to do. But
you learned a lot, right?
But I learned a lot. Those guys, I love those guys. I mean that today. They taught me everything. But I sort of was in this cooking rut after a few years, and I learned I could cook a steak. I could cook 300 steaks a night perfectly. I could, but I was in this box, and there wasn't a lot. I would volunteer for every wine dinner, and I would help out this. But at the end of the day, a steakhouse is a steakhouse. Now, if somebody's asking me to choose a place to eat, I'm gonna probably choose a steakhouse, because those are my favorite places to eat. But it didn't kind of, that passion for cooking I felt like it was almost getting lost. And I needed to venture out. So I found a job at a small restaurant, privately owned restaurant, and it had all the pitfalls that privately small owned restaurants in New York has. They ran out of money and all this stuff. And I was learning how to cook, but I wanted to learn from the best. So I volunteered to go. I went to, first place I went was Essex House, run by Elaine Ducasse in New York. It was 2 Michelin-star at the time. And I basically took a 80% pay cut to stand in the corner and pick time.
Wow.
But I remember watching the precision, and that was the first place. I remember in front of the line, the pass had carpeting, like in the kitchen, carpeting. Carpet, like it wasn't just a rolled down carpet. It was in place. There was no moving. And I remember that was the first thing I saw. And that really just sort of told me up here that, well, you better not drop anything on the floor.
Right.
I mean, so how, but that also kind of instilled that, well, I guess you need to respect everything you're holding in your hand, whether it's a fork, knife, a piece of salt. It's got to be perfect. I did that. Now I wasn't there for very long. Most of these places, only 6-7 months at a time. And then pretty soon afterwards, Gordon Ramsay at the London in New York was opening up. And I said, well, they just started hiring everybody as well, because, it was basically just like a meat grinder. And I got into that kitchen, and I was able to work with
Gordon Ramsay too?
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh my gosh.
He was there. He wasn't there very often. This was a nice big showpiece for him. But working for that environment, working for that company was really just kind of took something. It took everything in here to the next level. It just showed me what perfection was. because everything from washing the plates to washing your knife to washing everything, everything was perfect all the time. The environment, I mean, so if somebody were to ask me what it's like to be in that environment, it's just perfection. And there's nothing's perfect. Well, then find another place to be, because everything is perfect, and it has to be perfect. If you go to another Michelin, if you go to 11 Madison Park, a 3 Michelin-star restaurant, and you spend $1,500 on dinner, well, everything better be perfect.
It better be perfect. Sure.
And that's sort of that mentality, and that's perfection. And you learn the respect, and it sort of numbs you to the intensity. Everything you do every day is intense, and everything has to have purpose, everything has to be dedicated, and everything has to be mindful, and everything has to do with the guest. Is the guest going to be happy? Is the guest going to like this? Is the guest going to appreciate it? And it just, everything you do, every step you take, even today, just the way I will do my regular chores at, in office work, I will line them up based on what is the most efficient, and what is this, and how is everything going to come out perfectly. And that is what that life is like.
That's amazing, Chef, because a lot of times people don't. I love the fact that you trained in so many places with so much experience to teach you and instill in you perfection, and with what you said of not going to the corner and crying, because when people come to hotels as a chef in a hotel, people don't expect that level of precision. Yep. They don't expect that level of being having proactive service as opposed to reactive service. Right. Having worked with you at the Hilton Austin, I remember times that I would see you going through the restaurant to go to tables, to talk to guests, to see what their experience is. And as a colleague and as a guest, when I know when I go to a restaurant and the chef takes time to come out of the kitchen and ask about my meal, that makes me feel special. It makes it memorable, but it adds to that level of perfection and precision and hospitality. And I love that. I love that.
Well, also, we're in this day and age too. Now, let's not forget. Now, I'm a little before the Food Network generation, but that's all part of the experience now. That's all part of the experience now. Everybody loves the white shiny jacket. Everybody loves that experience. Now, and I know by nature, chefs are arrogant, and they want to hear, they love, their ego stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, trust me, I'm more likely to go to a table that's going to give me a compliment. That's going to yell at me.
You're right. But, not that one.
but that's also part of it. And I really, as a chef, I get the privilege of seeing that reaction that we've worked so hard on. When you and I were at Hilton, Finn and Porter, the thing for me, I remember that restaurant, the pork chop was a really good example. In fact, that pork chop I've used many other different places, but that was one of the first things that I ever put on the menu there. And it was there from the time I was there to the time that restaurant closed.
Yep.
It took 30 minutes to cook. It took 2 days to brine it. It took, countless, people touching it. And I remember that, and it was also one of the most inexpensive things on the menu, but it was the one that people ordered because sometimes they would order it because it was the most inexpensive thing on the menu. Right. And sometimes, somebody's traveling on a budget, and it was the one that was the most surprising because it's just a pork chop. And I would go out there and I would always check on the pork chop tables. Because a lot of times, 30 minutes is a long time to wait for something. And it's got to be right. But I remember, oh my God, this is the best pork chop I've ever had. And it's something so simple. I got to see that reaction. And, that's sort of the reason why. And that guest interaction, I mean, at the end of the day, the camaraderie you have in the kitchen, you love spending time with those guys, but honestly, sometimes it's just to break up the day. You just need to talk to somebody else.
Yeah, you talk to somebody different.
You're just in this enclosed environment with the same people for,
Right.
10, 12 hours a day. It's just
People who don't smell like butter on their neck.
Exactly. Yeah.
So let me ask you this. I want to transition briefly to how COVID changed the game for hospitality and how it turned you into this guy to do
Ooh.
these amazing. Look at that handsome guy
Yeah,
doing
it's
those
a handsome
virtual
guy.
cooking classes.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, you did a lot of stuff. Like for instance, I would watch a few of them, and there is one little bit I just wanted to show people really quickly because you're amazing.
Welcome back to Tasting Tuesday. I hope everybody had an amazing 4th of July holiday, and I hope you all did some awesome cooking out there. And I want to share with you today some of the recipes that I cooked for my family during the 4th of July holiday. So, today we're going to do our ribeye steak. So, ribeye steak, it is super simple, right? Ribeye, it is the most flavorful, it has the most fat, most marbling. We got our ribeye. Super thick. I would say super thick. I would say, about 1.5 inches thick, right? And also, when you get your ribeyes, wherever you may go, they should have a butcher. Ask them for a piece of beef fat, okay? That's going to come in handy, okay?
So I wanted to share that because I was like, he patted the meat.
Yeah.
This is amazing. I was like, this is a big old piece of steak here. And like with you saying, hey, that's how you were trained and everything, I was like in it. And then there was one part towards the end where you were like, add butter because butter makes everything better. I said, yeah, it does. So you transitioned to virtual learning. How did that work out for you? How was it received?
It was out of pure desperation. So March 7th, I was traveling to California for a very large event in one of our other hotels. It was I was leaving the Saturday. I left the Saturday after South by Southwest got canceled. South by Southwest got canceled on March 7th.
Yep.
And it sort of got real. And we had this huge group coming in this hotel here in Pflugerville. I mean, we had, there was going to be 700 people, breakfast, lunch, and dinner for 4 days. And we had been prepared. I was going to go out to California and help with this big event and then come back and get our butts kicked for South by Southwest. And that Friday, I left work early to get ready because I was going to travel on Saturday. And South by got canceled. And then these big groups started to get canceled. And then restaurants started closing because, they had all these private parties booked. And it just took this. So I go to California, and that week when I was out in California, that's when it
got real.
The NBA shut down, the Major League Baseball shut down. And I remember coming back, I flew out back through LAX, and it was very strange. I remember being scared. And I remember being.
Oh my gosh, I remember that feeling.
I remember thinking. Now, just on a personal side note, my favorite book of all time is The Stand by Stephen King, which is about a plague that wipes out humanity. So, like, I happen to be reading this at the same time, and
great. So it's your fault.
Yeah.
No.
But I found it. I remember somebody wearing a mask. I remember walking through LAX, and I remember somebody wearing a mask, and I said, "Well, what are they? Oh, come on!" And then so I get back to work that week, here in Texas, and I remember on Monday, I took Monday off because I had been traveling, and our general manager calls and says, "Hey, listen, I sent everybody home." Okay, and then I called everybody the very next day, and I said, "Well, we're going to close for the rest of the week, and then we'll just, so everybody just sort of take it easy." And then, of course, the dominoes hit, right? And I will say this, I mean, now, Harold Hospitality Group, which I've been now since 2017, they were amazing throughout the whole thing. Now we had we were able to furlough a lot and bring, I would say, almost 90% of our staff that was with us prior has come back, which is wonderful.
That's awesome.
And they really took care of me. They never, I was never furloughed. I was able to stick around, but it got real hairy. And I remember, after I had cleaned the same spot on the floor for the 8th day in a row, I got a text message from one of our clients here at the hotel. "Hey, I have an idea. Tell me what you think." And she came to me with this idea. Hey, we can't meet. Could you teach us a cooking class over Zoom? I didn't know what Zoom was, by the way. Like, obviously now,
Yeah, everybody knows.
Now everybody knows.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I said, well, okay, how do I got to figure this out. And we
Right.
worked it out. I basically packaged up all this great, stuff. I vacuum sealed some stuff and I mailed it to them. And then I
Wow.
did the cooking class on virtually. And the first class, I remember I vacuum sealed something and it spilled all over, like I packaged some wine for them to cook with, and I put it in a paper cup, and we sort of learned. And it took this one specific company, it caught on like wildfire. Every one of their meetings, they were having me do a cooking class afterwards. So I was doing 2 and 3 a week. And it literally kept the business, it kept us open. It kept us surviving in food and beverage. We were very obviously almost virtually no rooms. Nobody was staying in our hotel. We're close to the airport, and we're also close to the executive airport. So we had that business, but that was it. Our bistro wasn't open. Nobody was doing a banquet. We weren't allowed to have banquets.
Nope.
And this is what kept us going. And it just, but it sort of took off, and the people they did it, and it was so much fun. And now, yes, naturally I'm this, boisterous, gregarious guy, but I was just so happy to be working and doing something other than staring at a wall and cleaning the same spot on the floor and
18 times.
and constantly throwing food away from that was just expiring on the shelves. I was so excited. And everybody, you gotta have Peter do your class. And I ended up we did these, these big old refrigerated boxes that we would ship out overnight. And, I think at the end of last year, I ended up doing over 500 of these boxes, shipping them out by the whole year. And it saved the business. And so it wasn't this brilliant stroke of genius. It was just straight up survival. And that's how we survived.
Well, fire was bred out of survival. Okay.
Yeah.
So it happened for a reason. And it's so interesting because I don't know if you realize, but I have the vision of you doing this like on television. I already gave you a title. Okay. Yeah. You're the Unpretentious Epicure. Okay. There it is.
I like
Boom.
That.
Unpretentious Epicure, because people see you this tall, full gentleman, like they think you're, clearly you're athletic build, and you're an amazing chef, like you kill it in the kitchen. And I saw one write up about you. I think it was in the Austin Times or something. They called you the gastromancer.
Yeah.
I remember that one, yeah. I love how you set that up and how you give people tips on that. That is an industry that like it's the spark of something. You really could do even more with that. And then, when you go ahead and title it the Unpretentious Epicure, you just let me know. Tell all the people it came from HospiTellTheTEA.
Well, it sounds like we found the show title and the executive producer all in
one.
Right? Here we go.
Hello. I am here for you, Chef. So over 500 boxes in a year.
Yeah.
That is amazing. Yeah. So it really, really latched on. So are you still doing any of those now?
We are still doing them. They're obviously a little more sporadic now. A lot of companies have taken, they're traveling a little bit more. We've hooked up with basically a wine tasting company out in California, and we send them some on top of their wine tasting, the virtual wine tasting they do. We send them these non-perishable kits.
Yes.
It's just we've done instead of maybe 2 or 3 or 4 a month, we've probably gone down to about 1 a month.
Okay.
But I don't foresee the business ending completely.
Correct.
But I do foresee it obviously slowing down drastically. I think as we get over the Delta variant and hopefully the Lambda variant doesn't, the Mu variant doesn't take off. I think I see it. I'm very grateful to give up that part of the business. I'll be honest.
Really?
I am. But because that means they're coming back, and
That's right.
that means they can have meetings in person. But we're probably doing about one a month. I think if I have one
Okay.
scheduled in October, like the
But
first week in October.
it's fantastic, though. It's a
Yeah.
whole nother side of you that you
Yeah.
can put out there to people. So
Yeah.
let me ask you this. A lot of times, I'm pretty sure you've gotten this question many times, right? You're a chef. You've been trained in all these ways, and I know you absolutely adore steak. Like, vegetarianism is not a part of who you are. You're a true New Yorker in Texas,
Yep.
so it's like meat on meat on meat. But what is your favorite, like outside of steak, what is your favorite cuisine to prepare?
Wow, that's tough. It's got to be Italian, and part of my heritage is Italian,
Yeah.
but I love pasta, and I love the simplicity of pasta. Um, pasta carbonara.
Mhm.
I have had a couple of dishes in my life of of different plates of food that have been earth shattering. And I can
Mm.
tell you, of the top 10, probably 3 of them have been pasta carbonara. It's just
Yeah.
pasta, egg, black pepper, and a good Parmesan cheese, and a really good pasta, or a good noodle, a good spaghetti, or a bucatini. I There's something to be said about, first of all, carbs make anybody feel good. I mean, come on, let's be honest.
They do
And
the
and
torture of it all.
in Italian, but in Italy, everybody thinks about Italian food. Everybody thinks of, so let me narrow it down. Everybody thinks of spaghetti or meatballs or
Right.
pizza or lasagna. I love Northern Italy. I love Northern Italian food. I love the
Mm.
braises, and I love the rustic,
Mm.
rabbit cacciatore, or these gnocchi with mushrooms and deep, rich flavors, things that you don't necessarily associate with Italian. So that aspect of Italian cuisine is the one that I like to cook at home. So
Yeah.
if I make chicken marsala all the time. Now, chicken marsala is not necessarily a northern Italian dish, but
Right.
that's deep and it's rich and it has these simple yet layered flavors.
Mm.
I mean, I guess, yeah, if I had to narrow it down, um, and a very, very, very close second would be Asian food. Just the
Interesting.
flavors,
Okay.
the brightness of a lot of the citrusy notes of a lot of Asian food, yuzu and the ginger, the the brightness of that stuff really, really shines through. But if I had to choose, the other one besides steak, of course,
Besides steak, of course.
besides steak, would be definitely that northern Italian food. Yeah.
I love it. I
Yeah.
love it. So what's next for you? I know that like, do you have any other dreams or desires in the culinary industry that you'd like to pursue? I know that you're busy opening properties
Yeah.
and creating menus and doing all this magical stuff. Is there anything that you haven't done that you still really, really want to do and conquer?
Currently, I'm doing exactly what I set out to do when I came to this company or hospitality. I came to it to do that, and my goal was to have an influence over not just this little pie, but all the pies in the bakery, and have influence on and everything. Now, my dream would be uh, to take this company to the next level and open more hotels and purchase more
Yes.
hotels and take it to the next level. So really, what's next for me is just to take this stage and move up to the next stage, whether it's with this company, and God willing, I hope it is, because I love this company. They've been wonderful for me. But maybe it's that next level where you move up to a bigger company, and you take
Mhm.
on even more hotels, and you see these guys that we used to come through, and when I was a young cook, a young chef, and you see these guys, yeah, I'm in charge of the Eastern Hemisphere. Like, oh yeah, I
Oh,
want to do that. I want to
wow.
have that.
The Eastern
Yeah,
Hemisphere.
you know,
Goodness.
the, so that's the more influence I can have or the more I can put my passion, the more places I can instill my passion, the better off I am. So
I
that's
love
sort
it.
of that's sort of I don't really have a next step in mind, but I know what that next step looks. I know it's what it looks like, though.
Wow.
Yeah.
One of the things that I can that I've always gleaned from your personality, the way you train people, how you lead things, is there's always passion. Like you are always what they say, 10 toes down.
Yeah.
In a situation. Like it's not just half in, half out. And you give your all at all times. I love that. And that is exactly what hospitality is. And anyone who has ever tried your food should be honored, because I've had that pork chop before. It was amazing. Amazing.
Yeah.
And I have a sister, Karen, in Arkansas, and I always tell her, because she cooks amazingly, right? Southern cooking and whatnot. So I tell her every time I go home to visit, I love this restaurant when I'm sitting in her living room eating her good food. So I always tell her pork chop is the best one. Don't tell her, but yours rivals hers a little bit.
There you go.
Yeah, she was.
Listen, if I come in second to your sister, I'm still doing okay.
You're still doing okay.
Fine. I'm doing
yes, fine. You're still doing okay. So, Chef, I am so excited that you came on here today just to really share so many amazing details. I thought I knew a lot about your career and everything, but there are so many things. I mean, with Gordon Ramsay and the Michelin restaurants and just everything. I mean, you are just multi-talented, and I am so glad that it started with that kid right there. That kid's awesome. And he's still doing great things. So how can people do you have can you tell them where they can go online and see maybe some of the cooking classes that you've done and try to replicate things in their home?
Yeah, so we have our, if you go to our Facebook page for Courtyard Austin Pflugerville and Pflugerville Conference Center, all of our Tasty Tuesdays were on there. And then, if you just look me up, I don't, not to sound pretentious there, you told me I was unpretentious. If you just Google my name,
me.
You could see some of the things I've done. You could get my LinkedIn page. And, one of the things I love, I tell everybody, just drop me a line. If you think about me and you want to know how I can help you improve your dinner, that's a compliment. I'll take time out of my day to email you back, and we can talk recipes. So you can reach out to me like that as well.
Is there an email address they should reach out at?
Yeah, absolutely. So that would be Peter.Maffei at Marriott. That's MARRIOTT.com. Yeah.
Fantastic. All right. So I just added that there to the bottom so people can take a look at that. But yeah, so I am so glad you're here, and I thank you so much for just being the person that you are. I wish you everything in your success, and definitely appreciate you being here on HospiTellTheTEA. So the next segment, I don't know if would like to stay with me or not.
If it's as much fun as this segment, I'm all in. I'm all in.
Okay, all in. I love it. So segment 3 is Tell the Tea. Now, my brother jokingly says, your podcast has 3 segments. It starts off really professional. I'm going to give you information. And then it goes to an interview. And then it goes to Tell the Tea. And I don't know what the heck is going to come out then. But in hospitality, that's what it is, right? We experience so much. Like if we wrote a book on the things that we've seen, everything from champagne wishes on beer budgets to food that gets burned up at the last minute or whatever, we'd have something. So Tell the Tea is the last segment of this. And usually I tell about some situation going on in the industry that really just would surprise and shock people and gasp and awe and clutch the pearls. But I figured maybe you had a story you'd like to share with us. One that is super memorable or that was crazy.
Well, I'll tell you what, you wanted the craziest thing. Wow.
See, you're laughing already.
The craziest thing that has ever happened to me in the middle at work. Let's just say this. There's a lot of crazy things that happen in a kitchen. There's a lot of unprofessional things that go on. There are a lot of very professional things. There are a lot of just yelling, screaming. But the craziest thing that's ever happened to me, okay, so this was at the Hilton. This was in Finn & Porter, and it was a Saturday night. And I remember my wife and daughter came to visit. It was one of those stretches where I just worked quite a bit leading up to a new menu.
Right.
And I said, come on in, come into the restaurant. And they were sitting at the They came into the restaurant, they were eating dinner. Now, that restaurant, if you remember, we didn't have a host that night. The host had called out, and I think one other server had called out, and one of the bartenders had called. It was just, we were just short staffed in the front of the house. So I was running food. And I remember our general manager I was taking food to my wife and daughter. And I remember our general manager, she was looking at a guy, and she said, I heard it. She says, well, why were you singing to them? And I heard his response as I walked past, God told me to sing to them.
Okay.
So I just dropped my food and I just went and I looked. And it was a homeless gentleman who had kind of just wandered in from the street, and he was harassing guests asking for money. So I sort of went back. I went back.
God told him to sing, though, Chef.
I was like, I was like, hey, buddy, I'm really sorry, but you're just going to have to leave. And he said, okay, sure, no problem. And I sort of just kind of started walking him to the front door. And he goes, you don't have to escort me. No, yes, I just want to make sure you get out safely. And I kind of look, there's no hostess to host in. So I'm like, can somebody call security, please? Like,
right.
Let's go. And I kind of just walk him out. And I get him to the front door. And I made the mistake of patting like the bottom of his elbow. Like, thank you, sir. And he turns around and he swings at me. And my first thought was, I can't fight this guy.
Don't fight.
Here.
Yeah.
And I grab him. I'm a big guy.
Yeah. You're what, like 6'5"?
I'm 6'4".
Okay.
I'm a big guy.
Yeah.
And I push him, and I remember there were these escalators, and he kind of falls back over the escalator. And I was like, stop this. And I turn around. I was like, can somebody please call security?
Can you help me here?
But then over the person who was looking like shocked, one of the servers, I see my daughter's face.
Oh my goodness.
I am now realizing that I am the chef of the restaurant. I am running food. I am in a white jacket, and I am now in a fist fight with a bum in the middle of the dining room with my wife and daughter there. So I sort of casually just said, okay, all right. I let him go, and he comes right back at me. And he just
he didn't have enough.
I had to let him have it, and I let him have it, and then of course he's there, and I finally said, "Can somebody please help me?"
Please.
Like I didn't want.
I guess they thought you had it, Chef.
Well, yeah. And so security comes, they escort him out. And I just walked back, and the whole dining room just seamless. Just nobody really knew what had just happened. Now, I am very proud of the fact that I sort of kept it quiet. That I didn't disrupt everybody.
Because it could have gotten really loud.
But I remember I walked back, and I go to my wife and daughter's table, and I said, "Did you just see that?"
Your daughter's like, "Yeah, I saw it."
Yeah. She goes, "Why were you fighting?" But my wife was totally oblivious. She didn't realize what had happened either.
So they were at the same table, and your daughter saw it, but your wife didn't.
She was on this side, and she was on the. And it was her view was obstructed.
Yeah.
And I never thought that was. And I just kind of said. And I walked back to the kitchen, and they said, "Okay, chef, this is up." And I said, "Did hold on a second.
Did anybody?"
I said, "I just got in a fight in the dining room," and everybody's like, "No, what?" And I go, "Yeah, I just got in a fight. A
Where
fist
were
fight,
you guys?
like a real fist fight in the dining room."
You were like,
"No." The best part of this was
y'all weren't the Justice League that night.
We were tight because like the fight had ended, and this guy was out of the building. Now I won't name them, but there were two cooks who picked up their knives right away and said, "Let's go!" Like we're going.
No,
and I go, "That's easy. Down, boys. Down, boys."
No.
Dude,
they're
like, who's messing with you? That's how. But
sir, it's done now.
Yeah, I was like, yeah. Where were you 10 minutes ago, guys?
Right.
But
your time to shine is over.
I mean, I've had a lot of crazy experiences, but like getting in a fist fight in a fine dining restaurant in one of the nicest hotels in Austin, in front of my family, in a full dining room.
You win.
Yeah,
Not to mention the fact that nobody came to help.
just
Mouths
nobody.
were hanging open, but they didn't come to help.
Yeah, but like yeah. I still that was one of the crazier. Yeah, that takes
Wow.
the cake. That takes the cake.
That
Yeah,
definitely, I think
yeah,
you win. I
yeah,
think you win. That is telling the
yeah,
tea. I
yeah.
tell
There it
you.
is. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that is totally it. Yeah, well, hey, you definitely win. I'm just saying, let people know next time instead of their mouths hanging open, call somebody.
Yeah.
If you see something, say something. Isn't that what they
There it
say?
is. That
See
is it.
something, say
Yeah.
something.
Yeah. They got to see a lot, but nobody said anything. So
Nobody said anything. My goodness.
yeah.
Well, I am so grateful for you sticking around with us for Tell the Tea and telling that interesting story. Again, you win. And we're going to close out this fantastic episode of HospiTellTheTEA. Chef Peter Maffei, thank you so much for being here. And I will definitely call on you again in the future, sir, as you continue to do great things. Okay?
Thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun. I couldn't have think of anything better. This was the best. Thank you so much.
Oh, I'm so glad. I'm so glad. Spread the word about
Oh,
HospiTellTheTEA, and it will air on tomorrow on Mondays at 2 p.m. Central Time. And thank you again so much. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good night.
You too. Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being here for the third episode of HospiTellTheTEA, where we put a face to hospitality. I truly hope you enjoyed this episode and our fantastic guest today. And we're going to wrap it up just as Maya Angelou always says, people will forget the things that you do, but they will always remember how you made them feel. Always make people feel special. Have a good evening from HospiTellTheTEA. Bye-bye.